on his chest. Outrun all of the rest. Fastest gun in the West. Yippee-yi-yo, Cayenne, riding around your way. Here comes quick draw for draw. The highfalutinist, fastest shootingest cowboy you ever saw. That's quick draw for draw.
It's 9:10 here, Big 550 KTRS. We welcome in the audience who's watching on TV, KPLR 11.2. Don't forget you can download our app. We're always on at stltoday.com with our partnership with the Post-Dispatch. Also KTRS.com and, of course, 550 on your AM dial. All right. In December of 2011, Jason Stockley, a police officer, shot and killed a drug suspect, Anthony Lamar Smith, in December of 2011. On Monday, Circuit Attorney Jennifer Joyce filed first-degree murder charges against the police officer. Those are the facts. Those are not disputed, though that's about the only thing that's not disputed. Here to talk about this case is then Police Chief, now retired, works for UMSL, Police Chief Dan Isom. Sir, thank you for joining us here on the Big 550 KTRS.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get started, you called up the show. You thought you heard me say something, which, in terms of full disclosure, I don't know if I said it or not, but let me apologize. I might have insinuated that you tried to cover something up. Is that right? Is that what you thought you heard?
Yeah, I thought I heard that. And so I just wanted to be able to kind of share the timeline and,
Sure.
and actually what happened, since I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, why it took 4 years for this to occur.
Well, first of all, thank you for calling me out. I am not going to sit here and tell you I did or didn't say it. I say things 4 hours a day. Who knows what I say?
Right.
Half of it I believe, half of it I don't believe. But we were talking about it, and it might have been an offhanded comment like, was he or wasn't he or whatever else, because it is a legitimate question. Why has it
Yes.
taken 4 years? So I want to say publicly, if I did, I apologize. That is not what I meant, so I'm sorry if I did. I don't want a former police chief being mad at me for any reason.
No.
But I do ultimately respect you for calling up and saying, let me come and explain, because that's what we're here for. We want people to feel welcome to come in, and I'll ask you the questions, and you can answer them. So,
Right.
so thank you for calling up. Now, let's get to this, because this sort of came out of nowhere. I don't think this was on anybody's radar when we heard that Jennifer Joyce filed first-degree murder charges against a police officer. Let me ask you, how surprised were you when you heard that she filed first-degree charges?
Well, I wasn't surprised after the press conference because, of course, I still know people within the police department, and I had heard rumors that the police department was scrambling to put the case back together and to introduce it to Jennifer Joyce. So when the charges came out, I wasn't very surprised.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, your argument is, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I guess the simple question is, 4 years ago, you were the police chief when this case happened, so you were very much involved. What were your thoughts when you first saw this back in December of 2011?
Right. So in December of 2011, this was a very high-profile case. It was reported in the news. There
Right.
were activists who were upset. Of course, I was in communication with them.
Now, timeline-wise, this is before Michael Brown and Ferguson.
This is before Michael Brown and
Right.
Ferguson. So immediately, of course, we had the circumstances of the case, at least what we knew initially. So two things were done. One, the investigation went directly to Internal Affairs. Prior to that, one of my plans for the police department was to have a sergeant embedded in the FBI for corruption investigations. This was intentional for cases like this, when we actually needed some independent investigation outside of the police department. We would have someone who would have access to all the information within the police department to be able to funnel it directly to the FBI. So at the beginning, there was a joint investigation. So I really want to back up because this is important as well. The other thing that is important in this case is we have a video. One of the few times that we have video evidence.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why we had that is because it was a priority of my administration to put cameras in the car for the first time in the history of the police department. So that was something that my administration fought for at the time, And because of that, we have a video. So about, I'd say, well, it was actually a month after the incident, the federal grand jury starts. So from January all the way to about October of 2012, information is being funneled to the grand jury. Okay, so it's an investigation, federal grand jury going on.
Right.
It's criminal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't go to a federal grand jury without it being criminal.
Sure.
Generally, when you have dual jurisdiction, meaning federal and local, there's an agreement on who will take that, the initial shot at it.
Right.
And so the initial shot was taken by the federal government. We all thought that would be more appropriate because it's more independent, right?
Okay.
This was the central issue with Mike Brown.
Right.
Independence from the local prosecutor.
Right. There are no shenanigans. No one's trying to cover up anything. You can't investigate your own department. You might be biased one way or the other. If the feds come in, they're an independent voice.
Independent voice. So in October, which is about 3 months before I leave, we get notice that the feds are not going to prosecute. That's in the record, right? So we start the process of seeing, well, maybe it's a state case. Maybe we can make a state case. And so the information is turned over to Jennifer. Now, she says that it was an informal review. I don't know how you informally review a criminal investigation of an officer who now has turned out to be a murder indictment.
Right.
That in and of itself does not make any sense. So into January of 2013, of course, in the transition, Dotson and I talk about a lot of things, and certainly we talked about this case.
Right.
He meets with her about the case. Now, he won't say what that meeting was about or what was said in that meeting, but it's safe to say that he said he was very concerned about this case and what are we going to do about it. And so from basically that time to now, what has happened? What has changed? I think initially they reported that the DNA evidence was new. That's not new. It was known in 2012.
The DNA evidence being that the suspect's DNA is not on the gun.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's not new. Now,
You're saying you knew that when you were police chief.
well, it's in the police report.
Okay.
It's in the police report, and it was given to the federal grand jury or to.
Okay.
That-
So
yeah.
in her informal investigation, she would have had that because the feds had it.
And also, the prosecutor has access in their office to all of our police reports and to all the lab analysis. They can just pull it up by themselves. She says she never viewed the videotape at that time. Somebody in her office viewed the videotape. If you viewed the videotape, why wouldn't you read the police report? Why wouldn't you look at the lab records? All of those are central questions that you want to ask. The statements and the probable cause statements come from the in-car video.
Right.
That was all known day one. So the question is, that in my mind, what's different? Because what's been reported isn't any different. But what has happened between 2013 and 2006, there was a settlement in the case, which was sealed.
And according to Christine Byers of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, we now know that it was $900,000.
That was sealed. That didn't happen under my administration. Sealed that, also sealed the tape, so we can't see the tape now. And then the officer was suspended for 30 days and then quietly slipped away until
Monday,
Monday.
when she filed first-degree charges against the police officer. All right, back up a second. Dan Isom with us here, former police chief, now a professor at St. Louis University here in St. Louis. So if the feds don't indict and that independent voice comes back and says, boy, there's not enough here, or it was close, it was this, but if they say no, then if that's the independent voice, then why doesn't it just go away from there? If you'd rather have the feds do it because it's independent, they say no, clearly you thought there should have been something going on here.
Well, we found it, so distressing that we felt that we had to take a shot at least a state approach because the laws are different. There is no federal statute for homicide.
Okay. Oh, okay, so murder is a local.
Murder is a local charge.
Right.
And so the charges are different. And so you have to at least pursue that, right? If you can't do it federal, it's only professionally acceptable to try to pursue some local charges.
Right. How would you describe your relationship with Jennifer Joyce when you were police chief?
I mean, we had a professional relationship. I mean, we disagreed about, things, but, this case was one that, like I said at the time, was a very important case. I think there is, and certainly there is, and has been a reluctance to prosecute officers unless you have a very sound case. And so, of course, times have changed. 4 years later, after Mike Brown, people are looking at these things with a fresh eye, and that's all right.
Right.
We're not complaining about that. If the evidence is there and Stockley should be charged, then he should.
Right.
But if the evidence is still the same as it was 4 years ago, then let's just say that.
Right. And she's saying that she has new evidence, and she's also saying that you've been out of the loop, if you will, using her terminology, or paraphrasing her, and her office. You've been out of the loop. You don't know exactly what's going on. We have come up with some new evidence, and so therefore that's the reason why. You say...
I say that may be true, but because it's 4 years, let us know what that is. What is the new evidence? Because initially, it was suggested that the DNA was new evidence.
Right. Are you a teacher, or are you part of the media? Look at you wanting more evidence out in the public. Well,
I've changed the roles.
She's going to say, I'm not going to prosecute this, and I'm not going to try this in the media. You'll know when I bring it to trial.
Yeah. And how will we know that it's new?
Well, I don't know. I mean, do you want to come work for us? The Big 550 KTRS?
Yeah. My information is nothing's new.
Dan Isom is with us. Can you hold through the break?
Yes.
Dan Isom, former police chief. Who was the police chief when this police officer shot and killed the suspect in December of 2011. And this Monday, Jennifer Joyce filed first-degree murder charges against this police officer. And many people want to know what took so long, why, and what happened. We'll come in more with Dan Isom in a moment. 922 here, Big 550 KTRS. Let me tell you about John Beal Roofing, because if you've got any roofing issues, John Beal Roofing.